Assalamu alaikum. So today we'll be discussing on the next part of our EHVAC, that is your DC system or EHV-DC system, you can say EHV-DC system, DC system, but we will be more focused on our HVDC system, high voltage DC system. Okay. We won't be focusing on extra high voltage because till now the more work have been done on HVDC systems, and we have progressed to EHVs, extra high voltage DC systems. Now, this is the basic structure of your HVDC system. Here, basically what happens that your AC power, AC power is converted to DC power, and it is transmitted in DC, and then it is going to convert it to again AC. Okay, so your transmission transmission is in DC. So basically there are two sides of DC is this whole system. This side, this is your rectifier side, rectifier side, and this is your inverter side. So our power electronics has given one advantage, that we can convert our AC power to DC power, and then again we can invert our DC power to AC power. Okay, now here this symbol, this is an AC symbol, this is a DC symbol. Okay, before that there is a transformer, this is a transformer, and here also there is a transformer. Okay, now how we can convert our AC to DC? By using a rectifier. A rectifier consists of you have learned about thyristors. What is a thyristor? Four terminals, or your three terminals and four layer, right? So your anode, your cathode, and your gate. So there is an PN junction. Okay, now this thyristor is operates under two condition, that is your conducting and blocking state. Okay, and second is your blocking state. So under conducting, the anode is your in your positive and your cathode is your negative, and your gate signal is provided. So there is, so the junctions J1, J2 and J3, there are three junctions, right? J1, J2 and J3. Out of these three junctions, we find out that J1 and J3 are very forward bias, and J2 is a reverse bias. So that reverse bias is braked by your gate signal, so it provides your low resistance. So it provides the forward resistance between anode to cathode, forward resistance forward resistance between anode to cathode, right? So it's very low during your conducting region. So between your anode to cathode, the forward resistance is low when it is in conducting mode. But when it comes to the blocking state, there is a reverse bias between your cathode and anode, and your there we don't provide any gate signal, and in that state your J1 and J3 are in reverse bias and J2 is in forward bias. So it provides very high resistance, that is your forward blocking or blocking resistance is very high. Okay, very high resistance between anode and cathode. So the current flows, the current does not flows, or it provides very low, very high resistance. Therefore, the current does not flow. So this is the basic idea you have got from power electronics. Okay. Now, as you can see that this gate circuit can turn on and turn off. Gate circuit can turn on this, but it cannot be turned off. So we need to provide the commutation circuit to turn it off, right? Thyristor to turn it off. Now this rectifier side, there is a substation and there is a series connected rectifiers. Okay, series connected rectifiers are there provided in your substation. Number of series connected rectifiers, and these each rectifiers will have its own triggering component. Okay, or triggering circuit. Then it has its own protection circuits. Protection is done using snubber circuit, right? Snubber circuit. Okay, and it has the voltage gradient. Okay, means the overall voltage that that you are converting, because this is a series connected, so each will have its own voltage rating. Okay, so the total voltage will come across each voltage across each thyristor, right? So it has a series connected. So there is you have learned in power electronics that series operation and parallel operation of your SCRs. In that you might have learned about the string efficiency, right? You must go through that section. So this is how in the rectifier side it works on. For an inverter side, the similar connection is done, but it is in inverted mode. So the it inverts the DC power to the AC power. The only difference between these two is your angle. Which angle? So there are two types of angle you might have heard about. That is your delay angle and your extinction angle, right? So that is your triggering angle. First is your delay angle and your extinction angle, right? So delay angle is your alpha and your extinction angle is your beta. So you can define that a delay angle is, it is when it is expressed in electrical degree from the zero crossing of the idealized sinusoidal commutating voltage to the starting forward current direction, right? So this is your sinusoidal voltage, and from where the current starts, that is your alpha, right? So this is your alpha, that is your delay angle. And suppose this load which you are supplying, this is your RL load, right? So the RL load, what happens that it delays your current to go, it delays the current to go to the zero part. So that's why there will be freewheeling period, right? So there will be some beta angle, right? So this angle is your extinction angle. Okay, so these are the sum of the terms that we are going to uh, we will see the power flow of equation of this. Okay, so you need to revise some of the term. So this is your HVDC line. Okay, HVDC line. So here one of the another thing is that when you convert your AC power to the DC power, so your inductance and capacitance does not work in your DC power because the frequency is 0. So here maximum there will be a resistive component in this line. Okay, so this is the whole small picture of your HVDC line. We'll move on to the power flow equation, how it works on. Okay. So here we will be discussing on the principal operation of your current converter. Principal operation of current converter. So this current converter may be your new term available to you. Okay. So here what happens, this is one of your in rectifier side, and here you will get an AC supply, and that AC supply is converted to your DC supply. So for the smooth operation, so for the to achieve the smooth operation of your conversion, we connect a large inductor. Okay, we connect a large inductor. So this is your large inductor is connected on the DC side. So the reason is that we require smooth operation of the uh, of the conversion. Okay, so what happens to your smooth conductor? So here or inductor, what happens is that this is your AC supply and here it is a DC supply, right? So how we can tell? So this is your actually a DC supply, so you can say it is a battery, right? And a battery has consists of a in series with a inductor. So what you can tell, there is a battery and a inductor. So when you large inductor, when you connect a DC or a battery or a DC supply to an in series with a inductor, you can model it, or our circuit theory tells us that it will behave as a constant current source. So it behaves as a constant current source, right? So what happens to the constant current source? That means the current will be constant. Now here, because of this inductor, the current will not vary much. Okay, because of the inductor, the current will be constant. So that's what we are telling about the smoothing of your current, smoothing of your current. So we connect a large inductor. So that's why the current converter, so I have written that the principal operation of your current converter, that means your AC to DC, we are converting it to DC, but in DC we are actually having constant current or pure DC supply in current form we are having. Okay, so that's why current converter. Now what happens that because of this, because of the inductor, your supply current, whatever your supply current is here, supply current, that is your RMS value of the supply current, that will have a directly proportional relation with your DC current. Okay, so as your DC current is your will have a average value, and your AC supply will have your RMS value. So if you change the supply current, your DC current will change because of this ID. Okay, so So that's the advantage of your inductor. Now we'll talk about your transformer. We have connected a transformer here. That is because of two reasons. Why? I'll tell you. That first, suppose this is your supply line, and there will be this transformer can step up or step down the line voltage to your rectifier. Okay, and then the rectified voltage will get converted into, okay, so your rectified voltage will get converted into your DC voltage. So I am marking this voltage here as U of D. U of D. Now, so this is your U of D. How you can control U of D? So U of D can be controlled two ways: by changing the tappings of this transformer, right? So you can change the tap changing of the transformer, of the input transformer. Okay, and the next method is by changing the delay angle or triggering angle, right? Alpha angle of your rectifier, right? So what happens, as I have made my current as constant, what are the other parameter? That is a voltage. We can have a control on our voltage by either changing the tap changing method or by changing the alpha of the angle. Okay, so basically what our motive is to have a control on one of the quantity. I don't want to have control on both the quantity, because that will make our system complex. Okay, so what we did, that by connecting an inductor we made our current as constant. Then once this current get constant, we want our control on the DC voltage. So for that DC voltage, what we connected, we had a transformer and we had a rectifier. Now you might be having, sir, we can control by using alpha of the rectifier, then why we have connected an extra tapping this transformer? So there are two types of control. We can say that there is slow control. Okay, slow control or slow variation. Slow variation. If we want to change the voltage for in 8 to 10 seconds, right down, I want to see the change in the voltage after 8 to 10 seconds. Then what we will do, we'll change the supply. Okay, we'll change the tap. Okay, but if we want to change the voltage in milliseconds, that is fast response or variation fast variation, we require alpha. So these two types of change is because these two types of control is because of your dependency on slow variation and fast variation. Okay, now if we see here, this is whole picture of your control. So basically why we have installed a transformer, it's because of the slow variation. Why we have installed a rectifier, it's because of your fast variation in the, so if you want to have a fast variation, sudden variation in the control in your rectifier, so basically because of your change in the reactive power demands of the load, fast variation is very much important. Okay, and because of the active power change, we require your tap changing. Okay, so that's what the concern is. Okay, so we'll see uh, the next is the power flow equations. So next is the power flow equation of your HVDC line. Power flow. Now here we have to assume something, that here this is one of the bus, that is your UD1. Okay, so DC side voltage, this is UD2. So this is your DC side rectified voltage. This is the DC side DC side inverter side voltage. Okay, and this is the current. You can say here ID1, ID2. So this is the current in your uh, rectifier side, DC side. This is the current in the inverter side. Okay, DC. Now the as we have in the previous part, in the just before, we have concluded that your current will be constant. So I can tell that ID1 is equal to ID2, and that is equal to ID. Okay, as the current is constant. Now if what about then what is ID? ID I can say that the difference in the voltage UD1 minus UD2, and that is divided by the resistance. Okay, so from here you can say that UD1 minus UD2 is equal to ID into R, right? So this is equation number 1, this is 2. Okay, now if I want to know what is my UD, so UD is the average voltage, right? Average DC side voltage. So what I can do, there is two voltages. One is the rectifier side, the other is the inverter side. So just take the average. So I can say UD1 plus UD2 and divided by 2, right? So this is the equation number 3. Okay, now I'll decide the power flow equation. So what I can do is that, what is the power flow that is the going here? So PDC1, and that is nothing but multiplication of UD1 and ID1. Okay, so basically UD1 ID1 is equal to, you can write UD1, ID1 is nothing but your ID, so you can write it like UD1 minus UD2 and divided by R. So you will find out it will be UD1 square divided by R minus UD1 into UD2 divided by R, that is equal to PDC1, right? Similarly, if we need to find out PDC2, that is the power at this end, PDC2. So what you can say, it is UD2 into ID2, right? So just multiply it. ID2 is this equation, put the here, you will get the value will be minus UD2 square divided by R and plus UD1 into UD2. 2 divided by R. Okay, so I am marking this equation as 4 and 5. Okay, so what I can say about the power loss? So just I want to make some space. Okay, now I want to find out the power loss in the DC side, DC line. Okay, so power loss in the DC line, this line I am talking about. So what I can say, the power loss will be the difference of the power in PD1 side and PDC2 side, right? So PDC1 minus PDC2. So subtract 4 and 5. So you will get, you just what you can say, UD. You can write it UD1 ID1 minus UD2 ID2. So here ID1 and ID2 is same. That is, I can say UD1 minus UD2 multiplied by ID, right? So here, if you put the value of ID here, so you will get UD1 minus UD, or just I erase and put it here. So you can, I'm writing it directly here. So UD1 UD2 square divided by R, right? So you can, what is the power loss? Power loss is UD1 minus UD2 divided by R, and that's whole square, right? So this is your power loss of your DC line. So here if you see here, the power loss is of the DC line is directly proportional to the difference of the voltage, square of the difference, right? Square of the difference of the voltage. So if the difference increases, the power loss will increase. So the next point is that you need to keep this difference as constant if you want to have a loss constant. Okay, so the another way here, lots of parameters you can find out, but what I have to think is, I have already told you that to make too much of parameters and to control too much of parameters will be difficult. So just make sure that you need to have control of limited parameters and make other parameters with, you can say, uh, make one parameter as under your control and the other parameter as constant. It will be beneficial for your controlling. Okay, so here that's why people thought about on this, and what they decided is that we will uh, we will do one thing, is that the from this equation, if you find out equation number 2, so here in from the equation number 2, so you can specify like this: UD1 is equal to UD2 plus ID into R, right? Now Here I want to control uh, this voltage UD2. So you have this, from this equation you can see it has dependent on two variables, UD2 and your ID current, right? Now we are making this as constant, but it has some dependency also. It can be controlled from your rectifier side. Okay, rectifier side. So what we are doing, that to control the current, we will change the rectifier side, that is alpha. Okay, to control the current, and to control the voltage UD2, we will do it from the inverter side. Okay, inverter side. So this is the basic control mechanism we have reached here, is that if we want to control the voltage of DC voltage of rectifier side, we have two parameters. Number one this, number two this. And if we want to change the current, we will go to we will change this. And if we want to change the UD2, we'll change the inverter side, right? So this is the basic. um, uh, Under normal condition, you can say that the inverter determines the voltage of the DC system and the rectifier controls the current of the DC system. Okay, so we can say that the inverter determines the voltage of the DC systems, and your rectifier decides the current of the DC system. So the main focus should be that if the number of variables increases, try to have control on some parameters. Okay, so we'll stop here, it's too much, I think it's long lengthy video. We'll have more discussion on the next slide, and we'll discuss some numerical there. Okay.